It means the value isn't just in sharing specific tactical solutions like, oh, when I had that problem, I did X. It's about seeing the underlying patterns of challenges and opportunities that tend to repeat across diverse, high-level contexts.
Uh, okay. Seeing the bigger picture patterns.
Right. It's recognizing, for example, that a really complex stakeholder management issue in the tech industry might follow a similar underlying pattern to a major regulatory challenge in healthcare, even though the surface details are totally different.
Got it.
The meta perspective is the ability to spot these fundamental patterns earlier and more clearly because you're benefiting from the pattern recognition skills developed by 7 other brilliant minds who are operating in different environments but at a comparable scale of complexity.
So it's like gaining access to decades, maybe centuries if you add it all up, of combined high-level experience. And having those experiences kind of synthesized into fundamental patterns, you can then apply to your own unique situation.
In essence, yes, you leverage the collective pattern recognition to anticipate issues more effectively, frame problems with a broader, more informed lens, and potentially avoid pitfalls that others in the group have already navigated in their own worlds. That provides a significant strategic advantage, especially in a fast-changing global environment.
Okay, that's powerful. And the third outcome, the article frames this one as potentially the most critical for long-term effectiveness. It's called leadership sustainability.
Right. And this involves what the source calls a fundamental shift in leadership identity.
A shift in identity. How so?
This outcome directly challenges the traditional, often quite masculine view of leadership, where vulnerability is seen primarily as a weakness, and authority is perceived as needing absolute certainty and control at all times.
The leader knows all model.
Exactly. The women in the alliance, according to the source, demonstrate something different, something powerful. Strategic vulnerability.
Strategic vulnerability, okay?
The ability to authentically engage with uncertainty, admit maybe you don't have the answer yet, explore challenges openly but in selected, trusted contexts like the alliance, this actually strengthens leadership authority in the long run.
Okay, that feels genuinely counterintuitive for many traditional leadership models. How does showing uncertainty, even in a private group, make you a stronger leader overall?
Well, it's about where and how you express that vulnerability. It's not about, being unsure and waffling in front of your team or the board.
Right.
It's about having a trusted peer space where you can bring the developing thoughts, the ethical dilemmas, the moments of uncertainty that are just inherent in complex decision-making at the top. By processing these challenges rigorously and authentically with peers who understand, you clarify your own thinking, you gain new perspectives, you build a more robust foundation for your eventual decision.
So then you step back into your leadership role.
Right. And you lead not by faking certainty you didn't feel, but with a deeper, more informed and stress-tested conviction that was born from that exploration. It makes your decisions more resilient, and your authority feels more authentic because it's based on thorough, multidimensional processing, not just putting up a facade of having all the answers from the start.
The source includes a quote, right, from Catherine W., a CEO.
Yes, of a healthcare technology company. And it beautifully illustrates this point. She says, and this really speaks to that performance paradox we discussed.
What did she say?
She says, in my organization, I'm always on, always the decision maker, always the confident leader. That perfectly captures that intense pressure, right? The need to maintain that constant facade of certainty.
Absolutely. Always on.
It does. And then she continues, explaining the impact the alliance had. The 0.5% alliance gives female leaders the one space where they can say, here's where I'm uncertain, here's where I'm still developing my thinking.
The one space.
The one space. And she concludes that psychological freedom has transformed not just how I experience leadership, but the quality of my leadership itself.
That psychological freedom. Wow. That phrase is incredibly powerful, especially thinking about leading at the very top. Having the freedom to simply not be on constantly, to openly explore uncertainty and work through really complex problems with true peers who understand the gravity, that must be profoundly enabling.
It really must be.
It's not just about feeling better, though she probably does. It's about being able to access a deeper level of strategic thinking and ultimately make better decisions. Because your processing isn't being artificially limited by the need to appear infallible all the time.
Exactly. It's not therapy, though it might feel supportive. It's a strategic imperative disguised as peer support. It enables the leader to access their full cognitive and emotional capacity, which should lead to more sustainable high performance.
which really does suggest a different way of viewing leadership relationships altogether, moving beyond the purely transactional or the purely informal buddy system.
Absolutely. Which brings us to what the article describes as potentially the most profound shift enabled by the alliance. And that's moving away from traditional networking, which, let's face it, is often transactional, about quid pro quo or just collecting contacts.
What can you do for me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving from that to a model of co-elevation.
Co-elevation. Okay, define that.
The source defines this as a mutual investment in one another's growth, an investment that goes significantly beyond typical professional relationships. It's not just about what I can get from you in this interaction or what you can get from me right now. It's about a deep, shared commitment to lifting everyone in the group, to contributing to their success just as genuinely as you seek their contribution to yours.
A mutual investment. Okay. And how does that shared commitment actually manifest? How does it get reinforced within the alliance structure?
Well, the article brings in concepts from social scientists here talking about reinforcing commitment loops.
Commitment loops.
Yeah. The idea is that by making tangible investments in the success and growth of the other members, maybe it's sharing really hard-won wisdom, providing tough but constructive feedback, or offering genuine support during a crisis, members create this powerful sense of mutual accountability.
Okay. But accountability sounds potentially harsh.
But this accountability isn't punitive, like you didn't meet your target. It's generative. It actually elevates performance across the entire group because you feel more deeply invested in contributing your best insights, knowing others are relying on you, and you know they're equally invested in supporting and challenging you. It creates this virtuous cycle of shared ambition and collective lifting. Everyone rises together.
So the structure naturally results in a community that is simultaneously a deep support system and a powerful performance catalyst. It actively drives higher achievement for everyone involved, not just comfort.
Precisely. And the source argues that the structure effectively resolves that false dichotomy between support and challenge that you often see in leadership contexts.
Right. People often think you either have a nice supportive group where you don't feel judged, but maybe don't get pushed,
The comfort zone.
or you have a tough, challenging group focused purely on performance, but where vulnerability isn't really welcome. You have to have your armor on.
Exactly. But at the executive level, especially facing these complex challenges, you desperately need both, don't you? You need rigorous challenge to refine your strategic thinking, to spot your blind spots.
Definitely.
But you also need the psychological safety to bring those developing, uncertain, maybe slightly out there thoughts to the table in the first place so they can be challenged constructively.
Right. You need both to truly perform at peak.
Exactly. The research is very clear on this, as the article notes. Leaders performing at their peak require both psychological safety, the freedom to explore and experiment, and rigorous accountability to ensure their thinking is sound and their decisions are robust.
And the intentional architecture of this 0.5% alliance, it's designed to create precisely that balance.
That's the claim. The deep trust built through curation and structured vulnerability creates the safety, while the curated intelligence from diverse, high-caliber peers and the focus on real strategic challenges provides the rigor and the accountability.
So it's support that enables the challenge. It allows you to tackle bigger, harder problems more effectively because you're not doing it entirely alone, and you can access the collective brilliance of the group.
That's a great way to frame it. Support for the challenge. Now, this all sounds incredibly valuable, maybe even transformational.
Yeah.
But as the article hints, this kind of intense, curated, vulnerability and rigor-based alliance, it's probably not for every single woman leader, even at the top. Who does the source suggest is truly ready for this kind of commitment and engagement?
That's a key question. And the article provides some clear indicators.
Yeah.
Almost like a self-assessment for women executives who might be considering if this aligns with where they are in their leadership journey.
Okay, what are the signs?